Start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Welcome to the Beach Committee meeting. We have an agenda. Some of them are not going to be able to do. The approval of the minutes of August 15th won't be able to get done. We do not have a town clerk report or a head lifeguard report. Either, I didn't ask the town clerk for a report. They still have some passes trickling in, but we're still under the number, about 400 or 500 under the number we usually sell.
Really?
We don't know, but we've made more money. Oh, you weren't here at the last meeting. We made more money.
Well, the rates went up.
Right. So we don't know if it's a function of the rates going up or people, not many people buying passes. We're not sure what the story is.
Bad.
Yeah. I put down the complaints email. Perry usually brings those. He's not here, so we don't have any complaints emails. Fence bid award contract. We have two bids. One from Southeast Fence for $19,200. One from Castro Corp for $20,160. They're about within $1,000 of each other. A low bidder, but there was a problem because they both provided specs for the fence, and there's a difference between the two specs.
Yeah.
Castro Corp spec'd a little heavier duty fence and has mentioned that we need this, he wants another shot, or we should allow this guy to bid on the same specs. We should put together a set of specs that
Well,
are the
if they
same.
got
Exactly.
time to do it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're not in
Yeah.
any hurry, like again, but that has to be voted on also, and we can't do that either. So, moving right along.
Right.
Can we vote on the stipulation of the specs with you? You can't vote on the acceptance?
I can't have anything to do with the fence.
Okay.
So, unfortunately, I shouldn't say that, I can mention it, but I can't take a vote regarding whether, because Southeast Fence is the low bidder, and they should be technically, I believe,
Yeah,
have
I-
to be awarded, but Castro has come up and said, well, they didn't bid the
They
same.
did the same, so.
Right, so he said there's probably $2,000 difference between materials, that's him, so we have to give Southeast Fence the ability to counter that.
But we can't vote on that and say, okay,
Because I can't vote on it,
okay.
so I apologize for that.
I'm just trying to figure a way
So
around.
this is going to be one of the
in case we get
fastest,
something
this is
done.
going to be one of the fastest meetings on record. Reorganization committee, there's nobody here, so that we have to skip that one. We were supposed to have a discussion, we had a brief discussion on recreation, it's phrased badly in the agenda as taking over the beach committee. Basically, it's asking as administrative personnel for the beach committee.
Yeah, well, I've always been aware that we are one of the few committees in town that don't have a
But we do-
Administrative.
paid person.
Yeah,
We don't need it.
what's the
Well,
reason we
don't
can't?
need it, but someday.
Yeah, we can't access the website, I can't access the website to post agendas, minutes, or whatever, and everybody's complaining about that, because we don't have an administrative assistant.
I know how to do that, because I do it for
I
conservation.
don't know if you can do it, I could ask Jim if you could do it for, because I've given the selectman's office all our minutes since I was the chairman, since
Paula should be
2020.
able to set it up for me, and I should be able to do it,
I'll talk to Jim in the morning, because people are asking that question.
because my agenda's in my
Are
minutes.
you asking that question? Okay. So having said that, are you here for any specific purpose, or just to take everything in?
Well, no, I mean, we were interested in, obviously, the fence issue and interested in any issue you might discuss.
Anything about the fence that you have an issue with, or?
I guess the question we didn't understand is, at least my husband and I didn't understand is there some kind of contractual arrangement where there has to be a fence?
There was been a handshake agreement that was going back to the 60s
Yeah.
about, because the access road on the beach is on these people's property, and they would just like a fence to keep people from wandering on, further onto their property, and people have been doing it. If you go to the end of the fence, you'll see this nice, really worn path that cuts across. And to be good neighbors and to be neighborly, we believe that we should maintain the fence in a good order to keep people from, not that it keeps everybody out by any stretch of the imagination. Right now, the fence is a hazard. If you've been down there, there's, sharp pieces, and it's being held up by the sand, essentially.
Been that way for.
Yeah, it's been that way for a while, and the abutters have been very patient. This has been a 3 to 4 year process about replacing the fence, and we're just trying to be good neighbors and do the right thing. A lot of people, why do we need a fence? And if the fence wasn't there, there was no doubt in my mind that people would wander into the dunes, and and that's all private property off to the left. And if you lived there, you wouldn't want people doing it to you. So that's why we're doing the fence. We are,
Now, is this a deeded right-of-way? Is this?
no, I mean,
Properly-
there were right-of-ways, it was called John Road, believe it or not. But, they didn't build it right. They just built it according to topography, as opposed to, supposed to be
Because,
straight from,
I wonder if we're gonna, someday we might get into the same problem as the landing has with the masons.
that is always a problem. The abutters have never said anything, and we've been using it so long that,
Well, I recall, though, when we had a issue, not an issue, but for years, we would walk across a strip of land.
Right.
To get from our house to our parents, my in-laws' house.
right,
And we didn't own it, they owned it, and we just walked across. And the owners of the property sent us a form letter from, the lawyer that said, we don't mind your walking across our property, but you will have to waive forever your right of,
yeah,
what's it called?
an absolute right to do it.
Well, it's, there's a phrase, adverse possession.
Right,
You waive adverse possession.
right, or, yeah.
And so it may not be a bad idea if you talk to the administrator or,
Well, we were trying to work out a formal easement, and that couldn't be worked out. They were a
well,
little
this would be
afraid.
in place of that.
Yeah, right.
And I just wonder why the Masons and the Town Landing people can't come up with something like that.
They've been trying to come up with something like that, and there's an issue about liability, and because it's a,
Well, that should all be in the letter
Right.
somewhere.
I think the Masons have been pretty good, and I'm on the landing committee, and it's nothing to do with purview of this board, but,
I don't want to go off the track.
yeah, yes, so,
But it's sort of but it's got similarities.
similarities, but, I mean, the town's been using the access
Yeah.
road to the beach for as long as I've been alive,
Yeah,
and
question.
that's not a long time.
Is the town using the access road that's right to the,
East?
yes, thank you, relative to the
No.
walking path?
No, the walking path, as you get to the top of the hill, crosses over onto the property. As you get back down along the hill, like where the pine tree is, there's a big pine tree there, you're back onto town property.
Okay.
So
And the issue is
the fence that,
town uses access there to drive down in the morning.
yeah. So it's been used for years and years and years. However, to avoid conflicts and neighbors, because to build a road or do anything, it would be, and as Leon knows, conservation, why, to get the permits to do the things that most people want to do, boardwalks, it would be next to nearly impossible.
Yeah,
because
that's sort of a road. I mean, if you go down below the sand, just
Yeah.
a little ways, there's a pretty hard surface
Is the-
underneath.
I've observed the fence and agree it's a hazard. Is it just the portion, is it run just where the dunes are mostly?
Yeah, we're going to replace from where it starts, we're going to extend it a little across this well-worn footpath that people have used to get around the fence. Start it a little further and run it back to the tree, because that's the most vulnerable part of the crossing issue. The fence is in pretty good shape from there up, and it's obvious because of conditions down there. You get the worst conditions in the world for metal,
And
so.
the public property where people are going onto the private property, is the motivation to use the path or just explore the dunes?
It's just because there's a nice set of dunes there. The problem is that it's all private property, and people have paid a lot of money for those homes. I've known the Cooper Mullen family my whole life and everything. They own that first laneway, next one, Joe Collins and that group. They've been very good, and, but what happens is, and it's not as bad as it used to be now that we lock the gates every night, and we've got cameras and everything, but they'd be party central, bonfires, broken glass. People are walking down to the beach on their property, and there's glass all over the place and garbage and you name it. And then in the winter when it snowed, they were using it for snowboarding and, wearing away the grass. And it was just basically, and
Makes
it,
sense.
yeah, something has, I sympathize with them because I wouldn't want somebody doing that in my backyard.
Sure.
It's an attractive nuisance, it's just where you live, and everybody knows that, but why do they have to put up with it? So as to be good neighbors and to be, not to get into whole legal battles and things along that line that nobody wants to get into, we think that replacing the fence would be a good idea. So, so moving on to number 10, we've been asked to do some landscaping at the town beach parking lot. I mentioned at the selectmen's meeting, we could put up a nice sign that says Westport Town Beach, that could have a slider on there that says open, closed, or, permit required. People don't like the rusty metal signs and things hanging all over the place. I'm not sure what you do, which we'll come to another when we get to the member issues. I'm not sure what we can do, but I think having a nice sign that says Westport Town Beach, a nice wooden sign, and everything similar to Horse Neck Beach and that kind of thing would, and to do some cleanup. A couple of weeks ago, somebody was locked in the parking lot, and, because I locked them in, that's how I know.
Yeah, that's-
And the funny thing is, I went back the next morning, and the car had moved from the first bay to the fourth bay. And the way they did it, and I don't know why they did it, but the way they did it was they took down the poles, the horizontal poles between the bays to go through there.
Oh. But then they were still stuck.
Stuck, yeah, so I said, you would have been better off, more effort, just breaking the gate and going out. And unfortunately, the person's mother called and said, my son will be coming back for his car, so now we know who it was and who did it, and the police were involved and everything. But so there was a thought that because people keep backing into those horizontal telephone poles that are on the vertical poles and knocking them off, even though they're bolted down and nailed down, people keep to put a heavy rope between them.
Yeah, well, I'll go take a look.
And that'll, yeah, so if you have any ideas, the pine trees that are growing up, the town administrator mentioned you'd like to see them go. I think it adds to, because there's no shade in that parking lot whatsoever.
Yeah,
Not the ones on the edge, but
I
there's a
haven't-
couple on the berms that I think
Yeah,
are
I haven't
not.
looked at it for a while.
It's a matter of, some people love the fact that we keep it natural. Other people want it to be paved with boardwalks and Ferris wheels and,
Just like the pothole filled.
The problem with the pothole fill, there's not much you can do because it's just all sand. Every time you get a rainstorm and what happens,
Where the gate is?
every year they fix it and every year it gets worse. Because that's where people accelerate and decelerate. And when you do that, you push the sand and you get into the sand. And it's just
There's gotta be a way to fix this.
we could put a bigger paved apron and we've been talking about that, but then the pothole just moves.
Well, I know the puddles on Beach Avenue are colossal,
Yeah.
and they've graded that over the years, and they always come back.
Unless you do strictly pavement on sand like that, it's just gonna move when it rains and people accelerate and decelerate in one particular spot, and that's where it happens. Right where people make the turn in, because they're turning the wheels, and that's causing and then on the way out, it kind of accelerating to get out of the parking lot. It's a problem that happens to every gravel road in the world. I live on a gravel road, it happens all the time. We fix it every year, and every year it's the same thing. In the spring, we go down and fix all these things, and by July, you would never know we did anything.
They have the material, it's like concrete hexagon shaped, but it's
Pervious, right,
And you
right.
grow grass in it, and you can
Right.
park on it. Does something like that ever help to stabilize it?
Yeah, it would. That's what we have down at the end of Beach Avenue. That's what the
Right,
handicapped
just
people
at the
use
end,
to,
Just where.
yeah, just where the handicapped
so,
parking is areas.
Yeah, handicapped access mainly.
Yeah,
But it would be a project.
yeah.
and that's
Because
not
you have to remove all the
not
material, put it down, fill it with gravel, put it back, and there's no guarantee it's gonna work. Because one of the problems is, if it snows, we get complaints, nobody plows the parking lot. So as soon as you plow gravel, you're starting the process all over again.
If you have a cement structure.
Obviously, increasing the paved apron entrance would help a little bit.
Yeah, that would help with the turning.
Yeah, it would help yeah. But what happens is, because it's an edge of a pavement in sand, that will break up and work its way back to the pothole world. Nobody likes it, I don't like it, it doesn't bother, I have a truck, and it doesn't bother me, but I see people with a Prius, and, if you're doing 1 mile an hour, you can get through there. But if you're doing any more than that, you're taking off the bottom of your car. So it's a question of, do we want to pave parking lot there?
Yeah, well,
That's the ultimate solution. I don't think, and a lot of people don't, like I said, we get rave reviews from every beach goers and everything about how there isn't, you can get on, it's natural from that point all the way down to the mouth of the river. It is what it is. And some people love that. We have people who, one person in particular, who complains that we have, in every spring, there's too much sand on the beach, it's hard to walk. And we have people who complain there's not enough sand on the beach. Can we do something about that? We don't have control over those things when storms
a
come.
lot of paving methods, like crushed rock or gravel,
Yeah,
are impossible to walk on in bare feet.
yeah, because we get that, because the hills have been washed very,
And if I'm going to the beach, I'd like to be able to get out of my car
right.
and leave my shoes in the car and walk to the beach with bare feet. And so there aren't that many different,
The wrong beach.
Oh, right.
yeah. Well,
That means to get in, no bare feet.
I think you guys did a wonderful job of cleaning up like the Children Beach side.
Yeah.
It looked really nice and it was manicured nicely, and so, wondering if there was ever an effort to do the same on the other side in the spring and just like kind of weed whack some of the.
They weed whack usually like Memorial Day, just before it opens, because it's your maximum effect to kill the weeds as they're growing. What happens is during the summer, you can't weed whack down there because the parking lot's full. Yeah, so the weeds just keep growing and growing, and then you notice they weed whack probably in August on a rainy day, they went down. We had them go down and weed whack again. It's that's one of those things, if you pave it, you don't have that problem, right? But I understand that issue too.
Sometimes like the growth is encroaching on the parking, and so then it's preventing less parking.
Right. They cleaned it up pretty good in August this year, and they will go back in the spring and clean up any other thing. But again, in the spring, when they're doing it like Memorial Day, things haven't really kind of taken off yet. And it really depends on weather and all kinds of other things. But we try. And the highway department only has 5 guys, so they can only,
That was actually my next comment. Would there be any, effort to do a community day cleanup where you can come in, help kind of?
well, twice a year, the Watershed Alliance has a garbage pickup, yeah. Anybody who wants to, we could probably organize something like that. I don't know what the liability, if somebody got injured, you get power equipment and things along that line. But, we do appreciate it, and, it would be nice. We know that, the trees, it's a leaf out and everything, and that's just the way it is. We've done the path. A couple years ago, we did a path.
That looks great,
Yeah. But in 2 years from now,
We know you don't have a lot of manpower. So,
Right.
If there was, I'm positive there's a lot of.
Well, this is the-
community who would want to get their hands dirty.
yeah, well, this is the landscaping effort that
Okay.
Woody's the landscaper guy. He's the architect
well.
here.
Well, I do know that, I think there was a period when, maybe it was the Boy Scouts were planting dune grass.
No, the watershed plants dune grass, and
So
they
this
have
is
those
the
days.
Same idea.
Right, but I can tell you, in my short lifetime, the difference between the dunes now as for vegetation and where they were 30 years ago is night and day. That low area just off the path was all bare, and now it's completely filled with vegetation. Along the side, the same thing.
Yeah,
So,
it does come back.
yeah, it's
Amazing.
something you want because it holds the beach together, but not everybody wants some of the things, and you wrestle between, again, everybody who wants it, don't touch anything. And the other problem we have is during the plover season, we can't touch anything. We try to explain, why can't you do that? Because sometimes the plovers are there early, we can't even clear the path.
Well, that's April to September.
Right. So if they're nesting right at the mouth of the path, we've got big problems. So we can't do anything on the beach if they plover, and that's required by law and by our agreement with the plover and the Audubon and that whole thing. Not a lot of people are happy about the plovers. I think it does them a lot of disservice. They get bad PR because people don't like to see their favorite beach spot fenced off with plover fencing. It's just, we have no choice. And the highway department can't do anything if they're present. And that's part of the problem. 2 years ago, we had a big problem because they were nesting right at the end, and we couldn't clear the path for Memorial Day. We couldn't do anything.
It would
And-
probably help you to put a notice, like,
We put signs up and they disappear.
Okay. No, it was just something in the paper, like.
Yeah. Oh, no, we, every year Audubon puts a thing and it's on the front page of Shoreline.
About the plovers, but the
What?
fact that you're not plowing yet.
Oh.
Plowing has been
Good.
delayed due to blah, blah, blah.
We get the email that, why hasn't this been done? Why hasn't that been done? And we mention it in the hearings, and we kind of, and people who field phone calls, whether Paul at the selectman's office or the town administrator or conservation, you just, we can't. And you have to explain to them what's going on. We try to explain to people with dogs, and I'm the biggest dog guy in town, and everybody doesn't get it. And this year, because of the number of complaints from Audubon, we had the animal control officers there on a pretty regular basis, keeping people. I do not want to see, I walked that beach my whole life with dogs and everything, and mine are all, I understand what you want to do is get down the end of the path and with a tennis ball and let the dog off leash and whip it down the beach and have the dog run back and forth, but you just can't do that. That's not, in between April and September, you can't do it. It's just, you're not supposed to have a loose dog anywhere on the beach, but especially during those months, and I know people don't understand that, and that's when they want to walk. And everybody goes down there at 7 o'clock in the morning before the lifeguards get there, and 7 o'clock at night after everybody's gone. But this year, there was more of a push to do something about that.
It worked.
Yeah, I think, and it was well advertised and everything, and it's disappointing for me because I love, with my dogs, walking the beach, everybody's seen me there, obviously. But, you know, even my whole life, I've never seen a leash dog catch a piping plover, so, if people kept them on leash, I think you'd have a little better cooperation, but unfortunately, and then, yeah, there's too many people that think they own Lassie, and it becomes and I expect people who don't like dogs, and that's why mine are always 6 feet from me at all times. When I had 6 of them down there, they were 6 feet from me at all times. So it's just a common courtesy, but in the world we live in today, there's not too much common courtesy. So,
If you have a minute, or if you want to go to the end of the agenda, that's fine. I did want to ask a couple of questions.
okay, so member issues. So I have good news. I'll let you go, Woody. Go
Well, I
ahead.
have no big issue. I just want to say that almost every Monday morning, I went down to Beach Avenue and picked up the trash.
Yeah.
There is somebody else who does it, but Monday is trash day in the harbor, so I just go down, and sometimes it's pretty awful.
Yeah.
I mean, people are just,
The highway department.
dump it.
The highway department and the land trust have been doing it,
Yeah, well, I know.
but I don't know how often they've been doing it.
Well, I notice,
Yeah, and
because it's not every day, it's not every.
that's
all the time.
an ongoing
But
problem.
it's- There's nothing,
Yeah.
I mean, the best thing to do is just keep it clean, and people get the idea.
Cherry and Webb, since we took away the barrels and we lock up at night, has stayed very clean. I mean, you get the arbitrary plastic bottles and
Yeah,
bags
but
and
it's-
balloons.
But it got better,
It's- yeah.
over the summer, but there were a couple of days there when it was pretty awful.
It's, again, East Beach is a disaster. I mean, every time I turn the corner at
Yeah.
5:30 in the
But
morning.
Otherwise, it hasn't, the parking isn't that bad. The signs are in place, everything, the mats were out this summer.
We parked there today and had lunch, and we have a CRV, and where we were, it was really, there's so much rock, that it actually was kind of difficult.
Are you talking about East Beach?
Yep.
Yeah, that's one of those things, like, we had planned to move we had this plan, this grand scheme of moving that section of the road on the second zigzag back as far as we could on the town property, which is basically 100 feet. And so that the whole East Beach facility would be on that side of the road. And you would have a nice parking spot there because you have the old pavement and you wouldn't be on the cobble with the parking. Granted, because we can't remove the cobble and we can't do anything else with the cobble. It is what it is. And with the storms we had last winter, it was a bad problem. Because we had a woman who left a complaint, not a complaint, but a suggestion. I see this gentleman every summer and I feel so bad for him. He's a double amputee. He has a handicap van and he has to park on the not the ocean side, because he can't do anything on that side. And people take the only spot he can at the end, and no one does anything. So we're gonna put handicap spots up, signs, and delineate those for people such as him. But this year with the storms and everything, it got all screwed up, so.
How's the property swap going ahead in process?
So the Climate Resilience Committee, which I'm a member of, and the Buzzards Bay Coalition are doing a study, and everybody has suggested we not do this big beach improvement down there with the property swap and everything,
Yeah,
because
okay.
it's gonna be underwater by 2050 or
Oh.
whatever they're predicting.
Okay.
I said, well, we still got, 26 years, why don't we use it? So I would like to see it done, because it's a very simple thing to do. We own that property except that one in the middle. He did not put his trailer there this year. We had a deal to swap land from that piece down there and just broaden the road straight, make a nice little parking area, and have it gated similar to Cherry and Webb, where you'd have gates to come in and out the east, we'll call it East Beach facility.
Well, a fence,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, and, similar to what they have on Gooseberry with, a little guardrail type thing. So, because one of the problems we have at East Beach is things going on there all night and day. And all the people on First, Second, and Third Street let us know that at 2 in the morning, when there's spinning tires and playing music loud as can be and everything else. And I've talked to the fishermen, who are not appreciative of these same people, because they know the end is coming for their ability to go night fishing down there or early morning fishing, and then it'll be locked and what have you. But, it'd be nice to have a parking area, because a number of people I help in the morning, because their car is stuck in the cobble, is amazing. It's just, you have to know what to do. So that was a plan. It did not come very far. The gentleman was very amenable to swapping land. He just wanted like for like, and we could do that. The problem is it took an act of the legislature, literally, because the value of the land is worth more than $10,000. So you have to get an act of the legislator, or it has to go out to bid, and anybody could buy that gentleman's land, and he could end up with nothing. So he was not happy about that unless there was a guarantee that if you want to sell it to the town, and we'll get to the good news part in a second, but you want to sell it to the town for less than $10,000, which wasn't a good idea. Then it kind of, and he contacted me every once in a while to see, like I said, he did not put a trailer on that lot. It's the only one on that side of the road on East Beach there. He did not do it this year, because for obvious reasons, there were 19 trailers that didn't come back this year. And a lot of it is because there was nothing to come back to.
There's no land, nothing left.
We don't know what the future brings. The town's East Beach, other than disrupting the cobble, really didn't lose a lot of beach like they did further down. And that's because you keep it natural, it naturally levels off by itself. If you're always building a cliff to put your trailer on, it is what it is. Anyway, I digress. Leon, do you have any member issues?
No member issues, but we had the last spraying.
Okay.
I-
We spray for mosquitoes, garlic oil, that's all. If you ever go down there right after you do it, it smells like a burnt pizza. That's why, that's why. Makes you hungry, makes me hungry when I go down there, so.
I'm very into dragonflies and bees and stuff, so I have my own property done, because it just
She was the
gets
test
rid of,
case.
yeah, the ticks and the mosquitoes. Butterflies, it doesn't hurt, bees, it doesn't hurt, and dragonfly is my favorite creature, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, so,
So,
and it works fairly well, and you notice after a couple weeks, unless it rains a lot,
Does the
that,
town do that ourselves, or does that
yeah.
get outsourced?
No, we do the parking lot and then the path on both sides, and you can tell, when I go down the lockup, I can really tell, because when you walk down the gauntlet and you don't give a pint of blood for mosquitoes walking through the woods, it works pretty well.
Do you happen to know where you source the stuff?
yes. I can, if you want to know, just call Conservation tomorrow and I'll give you the information.
It worked surprisingly well, because you hear natural stuff and you always know that it doesn't really quite work as well as everybody will claim. This seems to
It
work as well
does.
as they claim.
Yes, it does.
And it's fairly inexpensive to do, and I think it's a huge benefit, obviously, for the facility.
I've got 4 acres and it only cost me $235, so.
So it's nothing.
And I got the Porta-Johns should be out.
Yep, Porta-Johns are out. I met the gentleman there and at 6 in the morning, and we opened up the gate and he took it out. So the Porta-Johns are out.
In your opinion, versus what we had in Mr.
I like Freyd's better.
You like Freight's better? Okay.
I think
I
the
can
Porta-Johns were a little nicer, as much as a Porta-John can be.
Okay.
It'd be nice if they both locked.
No,
Yeah, you
People
can.
have walked in on the handicap.
Yeah,
oh, really?
well, I think,
There's no way to lock it if you don't have somebody there watching.
I don't think you're supposed to be able to lock handicap,
I don't think you can.
because of the whole,
I can ask that question, though.
yeah, I
Take it
know.
off, but there's a thing there for it.
I think the other ones were much better, but
Okay.
I don't know what the price
Well, I've
is.
been wanting to know that because we contracted with
Yeah,
Fraser.
we had a new person, Mr. Cesspool, this year.
Yeah.
They were good about cleaning. I checked them out. They were good about cleaning, so,
The difference in price is not much.
all right, okay. We have all
So
this money,
I'll-
that,
I'll,
everybody thinks we have all
I'll-
this money,
I'll
so,
recontact Freights and see if they want to take over for next year.
okay. I have,
That I don't have anything.
some great news. We are closing on the piece of property at Cherry and Webb Beach in the next couple of weeks. We had a purchase and sales that we kept hush-hush. If anybody went to town meeting, there was a town meeting article that we kept kind of convoluted, for the purpose of acquiring property. This gentleman sold us 100 feet of beach for $10,000.
Where is it?
And we didn't want anybody to know about it for obvious reasons, because the whole world would be buying 100 feet of beach for $1 million if they get, as long as they can get
On
on
the
the
ocean side?
ocean side, yep, right next, just down from the town beach.
Yeah, how do you, I think there's a land trust piece in there.
It's just past the land trust. There's a land trust, there's a,
So, is it adjoining that, or?
Yes.
Oh, great. So that's,
it's a huge benefit to opening bigger town. The town beach is only like 350 feet wide technically. It's now a little wider.
So it's towards Boaters Beach?
Yes.
Okay.
So, we got this at a very reasonable price from the gentleman who approached us first, and we said, hush, don't tell anybody. We can't bring it up at a meeting. We were afraid somebody would come in and disrupt the whole thing, because obviously to own 100 feet of beach, somebody would pay $10,000.
Access to it, is there?
No, but it's adjoining the town beach. Well, access,
For us, we have it because we have access to the town.
well, there's always access from the shore. The issue would be if you bought a $10,000 piece of property at the beach, you're entitled to a beach pass regardless of where you live. So you could go down there and sit on the beach all night if you wanted to, because it's your property.
well, if it, I mean.
You could
some-
pitch a tent, you could do anything you want, and this is what we were trying to
Yeah,
avoid.
yeah, somebody who owned it, if there were an owner, a private owner, the rule in Massachusetts is that you can, between high and low tide, fishing, fowling, navigation, and strolling.
Yeah.
That's the rule. But what that means is that you can't put a beach towel down and sit on it. So somebody, if they wanted to be really difficult, could sit there all day and
Well, like I said, you could put a tent up on the beach and camp there all summer if you want.
not let anybody actually sit on their beach towel.
Yeah.
So this is great.
Yeah. This was the only promise concession we made was the gentleman is entitled to a beach pass for the rest of his life.
Oh, that sounds pretty good.
We thought that was a good deal. One beach pass does not, we were surprised when he approached us, and we just looked at it as, we think it's a big plus for it was a great coup, I guess. I don't know what else to call it, because we were a little concerned. It took a year to get there, but
Will this be additional guarded water, or?
I guess it would have to be now, yeah. Again, it's only another 100 feet going down, but the town owns it. We don't have to worry
Well,
about
I
something
mean, the
else.
town owns Cherry and Webb, the end of the point, Horse Neck.
The 64 acres at the end of,
Who owns that? Who actually owns that?
it's owned by the town of Westport. It's the Cherry and Webb Conservation Area.
Right.
It was donated to the town
Right, yeah, I.
under strict regulations that you would not ever change the use, develop it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So you never could even put a lifeguard there if you wanted to,
No.
so, okay.
But one of the things they mentioned, because the two gentlemen who donated were
Answers.
big duck hunters, was not to exclude hunting. A lot of people ask, because some people do hunt in the dunes, deer, and there's nothing we can do about that. It's part of the agreement when he donated 64 of the best acres in the town of Westport to the town of Westport for $0. So you don't lift gift horses in mouths, so to speak. So anyway, that was a really good thing that came in through this week from town council and everything. The P&S has been drafted, and I guess things will be finalized, and this gentleman will sign over the deed to the property. We have our new beach vehicle. I don't know if anybody's seen it, the new Gator. It came in June, but it took us till August
Yeah.
to get the title to have it actually insured to be used at the beach. It's sitting in the garage if you want to take a look at it. It's a very nice thing. It works out very well. Lifeguards were pleased because we don't have to use that Humvee where the doors were falling off. And you had to start it by twisting 2 wires together and doing that kind of thing. So, yeah. And the worst thing is we couldn't leave it there because there was no key to start it. So they had to drive it back up here every morning and then back down to the beach. And I rode in that vehicle, and I wouldn't want to be riding in that vehicle, put it that way. So we put in the storage container at the end of the road that you see, we have all the equipment. That's all been moved up here. We're going to have the storage container taken out because we rent that. That's $129 a month to have that thing.
Wow.
So the question is, why would you buy it? Because the thing's going to be a rusted
Yeah.
bucket of bolts in 2 years, so.
No, that's a terrific product.
So that worked out very well. Everything seemed to work out very well. The chairs are left in the beach parking lot in the lock bay. They will be left there all winter, just for ease of running them back and forth in the spring. Trying to think of what else. Again, if anybody has any idea out in the public or here for landscaping ideas or things they would like to see, please don't come to us for a boardwalk. That's not going to happen. Please don't come to us to ask to pave the access road down to the beach, because that's not going to happen. Can't be done. But I think a wooden sign at the main entrance, I don't know how everybody feels about the flashing sign that says closed at 8, parking permit required. We had a couple of emails. People don't see it for some reason, that big sign that says, because there's one person said, what happened to the sign that says no parking, parking permit required? And I thought, well, maybe some must have stole it, so I drove down there after I got the email, and it was still there. I see it every night when I lock up, so I think what happens is people aren't paying attention, even though you look at it the whole way down the road. People who park, who think they're at Horse Neck, who think they're parking. I didn't see it. I don't know how you miss it. I don't know what else we can do to make it more apparent for people not to park without passes. We have more and more problems every year because $50 is not a lot of money anymore.
Well, couldn't that be changed?
We just
The max,
did.
the maximum, and I think there's a way around this, the maximum allowable fine for parking in the Massachusetts is $50. And everybody who parks there, and we'll tell the police, you can't take a family of 4 to the movies for $50. But you can take a family of 4 to Cherry Web Beach for $50.
Is there still a problem when you use GPS that it put in, like some version of Horse Neck Beach, it sends you down Cherry Web, that's still broken?
I've used 3 GPSs to check that out, Waze, GPS Navigator, and Maps, Google Maps. What happens is, as you cross over the bridge, it says the destination is on your right, and everybody takes the right. Even though there's a big sign that says Horse Neck Beach Reservation this way, they take the first right. And I don't know why, I don't know who you call it, Google or Waze, to say, hey, can you change that? I don't know how you fix that problem.
So the state signage isn't that good, they're calling it, Horse Neck Beach Conservation Area, there's a sign in the center, that's it.
Yeah.
If it was something, that said beach with an arrow.
Well, it should say beach parking, Inc.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, and I don't, I ask them, this isn't Horse Neck Beach? And it's like, no. So maybe if it's the big sign out there that says Westport Town Beach, even though on every gate it says permit required, and if there's a nice wooden sign, with, that says Westport Town Beach, permit required at the entrance, or at the beginning, I don't know. I just don't know what else you do. But a lot of people are parking on purpose. So, because it's $50, July 4th weekend, it's 95 degrees, you're gonna go to the beach. Come hell or high water, you got a station wagon or a caravan full of kids, surfboards and coolers. You don't care about the ticket. You know, I'd love to see a $1,000 ticket, because that would solve problems quickly. I did not ask the administrative assistant to this, I was gonna ask Denise how many tickets we had this year. She's the one that's the parking ticket. Because I would be interested to see, during the pandemic, we were running 2,700 tickets. People didn't care. They wanted to get out of the house, they were gonna park illegally, I don't care. And even more problems, people parking other people, what they do is they find driveways so they look like they're being, people aren't down for the weekend or whatever the case may be, and they park there. That's one of those things. So,
Would putting a sign, once you've exited your car at the parking area, if you were to put a sign by the book kiosk and the other trail that said something like, warm and fuzzy, welcome to Cherry and Webb, and then something to the effect of, please note, if you intended to go to Horseneck Beach, you're not there, this is a town
well,
permit.
the Trips had a little sandwich board thing out there for a while. This is not Horseneck Beach. That got stolen. So that, and all the signs in the parking lot that say, that's why there's just poles there with no signs.
Yeah.
It's surprising, it says, no parking 8 PM to 8 AM. They get stolen.
Have you ever seen the sign on at the end of Demarest Lloyd Park? Well, you walk into Demarest Lloyd and you go right, and then it turns into private property. And the sign says, danger, longhorn cattle with bull. And it's in English and Portuguese.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah.
It's something like that.
It's a matter of, I'm assuming we're all town residents. We feel very blessed. We have one of the best beaches. Everybody's very jealous of that beach that we have. And, rightly so. Because people come from Little Compton to that beach. People come from Dartmouth to the beach, because every spring you see the Dartmouth Indian, high school sticker in the windows and all the other, where they're coming from, And a lot of people come from Providence, believe it or not. I don't know what the thing is there. But, we try to do everything we can. The police try to do everything they can. We're limited in personnel in the town. I'm not making an advocation of, hire 1 million people tomorrow. We have 5 people for the whole town for the highway department, doing the plowing, the everything, and all the maintenance on the roads. We have, during the night, we have, 3 or 4 police cars on the road, and all the activity is north of Cherry and Webb, and Cherry and Webb is about as far away from the activity as you can possibly be. That's why for the last 15 years, I've been going down every night to lock at 8:30-ish after getting ice cream at Woods. But I'm not going to do it forever, and I go down there at 6:30 in the morning, because I go to Gooseberry with the dogs to run them, and then I go over and unlock the gates. It's been working because you don't find piles of cans, bottles, and bonfires all over the place. But it's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. If anybody has suggestions, I am.
Has there ever been discussion about a parking attendant?
We-
At least on the weekends or something?
We've had we've had discussions about a parking attendant on obviously busy weekends, through like July into August, like for 8 weeks, having somebody
That's
who
my
needs.
pet peeve, isn't it?
And they don't. What's that?
That's my pet peeve, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
And I
And
keep bringing it up.
If you had somebody down there at 10 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon, because that's the problem times. But myself and the former chair of the beach committee, Tim St. Michel, used to go down there on 4th of July weekend to help park cars. But you only have so many parking spots, and there's so many, the only thing it helps is the people who don't have stickers. But even then, I sat there when this patrol woman was writing tickets, and I was talking to her, and this person pulled in without a ticket, and she said, "You can't park here, you're gonna get ticketed." And he asked, "How much is the ticket?" And $50. Said, "Okay," and just got out of the car and left. And that's the mindset. You know, I have people, you know, fishermen who ask me all the time, they'd love to go down there at night and go down, walk down to the Boaters Beach. In fact, last Saturday, there was a gentleman with 4 teenagers. And it was, you know, the fishing's real good in the fall, we all know, you know, and I told him, I said, you can't park in the parking lot. Well, where can I park? I said, I can't tell you that either, but you can't park in the parking lot, that's all I'm telling you. And it's a long walk from the back eddy down to the Boaters Beach, because that's basically, I think, where they end up going, is either there or the boat ramp. But it's nothing, I mean, that, we used to allow fishermen to get a pass at the police station as long as we knew who they were, so that if there was anything happen. But we can't even do that anymore, because what was happening is they were parking, and then people realized, oh, if I go get a pass, I don't have to show the police I have a fishing pole. So next thing you know, there's 20 cars down there, and there's not a lot of fishermen. So that kind of got ruined, and it's unfortunate, as a fellow fisherman. So there's certain things, and people get upset about all these restrictions and all these things, but I think it's just the way you have to do it for everybody to enjoy the beach and not get disturbed.
Just wanted to understand what your discussion has been about accessibility. As I get older, my husband had limited access to the beach this year with back waiting surgery and having surgery. The walk's the walk, I get that.
Yeah.
I understand you can't pave it and whatever, but, you know, you do plow it in the spring.
Right.
Is there any reason why you don't re-plow at all again?
Well-
Why is it only once?
Well, because you're fighting a losing battle, you know, uphill battle, no pun intended.
It does make a difference, though.
Yeah, I mean, and they're limited as how many times they can actually do it and what it actually does. You actually want the sand to build up so that you can bring it up and dump it on the beach. You know, it's unfortunate because you can't go after every storm, because you can go 2 months, right, and have no sand build up. But then all of a sudden you have one storm and you have 3 feet of sand at the end of the path.
I don't disagree with you. All I'm saying is, I've never seen it plowed more than once.
No, it's only in the spring.
And I understand now your restriction on when you can do that.
Yeah,
But, you know, it's one thing to walk on a nice hard surface.
Right.
You know, but when you get into that deep twisty sand, I fell 2 years ago, he wasn't able to go at all. You know, Sharon and John, they have 2 carts now, because if you put everything in one cart, it was too heavy for either one of them to pull down. So now
Right.
they have 2 carts with a few things that are trying to do it. You know, there's no, I understand there's probably problems putting mats anywhere, but even at the mouth of it, if you had a mat that got you that last, you know, so many feet to the shore, you know, it's just very, very difficult. And it's not, there's a large population of people that don't have handicap passes that can
Right.
go to the harbor beach and, you know, park in those 3 parking spaces and get to the beach. So, and, you know, Horseneck's a whole different experience. I know we have an option to do that.
well, Horseneck's even tough now because there's no sand on Horseneck.
No, but I mean, I took my 94-year-old mother to Horseneck, and, you know, I put in a handicap parking place because she has it, but
Yeah.
she still had to walk quite a distance to get in and on the mat, you know, so she did it, there was a lot of walking, and they were nice enough when I left, I actually asked them if I could, they let me drive down the roadway,
Oh,
you know,
to get her.
right at the end of the mat, so she wouldn't have to walk all the way
Well,
back. But there's, you know, so I know there's those options, but I mean, I'd like to try to use Cherry and Web as long as I can, and my husband also, and I just didn't know if there's been, you know, a real plan to try to do something. I mean, a kid with a golf cart going up and down would be lovely, you know, something, you know, that would help people be able to use it more.
We you know, and if you saw the beach vehicle, that would be a very nice vehicle to use. The issue you run into, and I hate to say this, is, and it sounds like a cop-out, but is liability. Because if people walking on the path, if something happens, if a vehicle hits somebody on the path, if this, and the other thing is, there are a lot of people who just want it to be as natural as possible.
But putting a mat down just in a.
But the mat, well, you see what happens to the mat at the kiddie beach? It gets eroded because it stayed, or it gets covered, and then there's no mat left. That's why they pull the mats up every
Oh, yeah,
fall,
I
you know.
understand they have to pull the mats
Right,
out. I'm
but-
just talking about one section of mat, you know? So-
You need more than that. I mean, you need
Well, it's
quite
the
a,
last,
in the worst
whatever,
area.
100 feet of,
it's getting more than 50, less than 100, I would
And
say.
even if you started out with just 50 feet of it, I mean,
Some
just
mat
to see what would
someplace
happen.
would be
Just
helpful.
anything would be an improvement over what it is now.
It's really, really hard.
Understood.
That deep sand is very hard. and you don't know it, what it's gonna be like, you know, until you get there. And I appreciate that every storm changes it, but I don't think that's a reason to only plow it once.
Well, the whole idea is you're not allowed to do that basically for environmental reasons because they want natural beach nourishment. So to go down and do that on a regular basis, coastal zone management would not be happy with you. I can tell you that.
But then they tore up the road along Horseneck to create like a wider.
Believe me, the town went nuts about that whole thing, and I understand completely.
It's gonna look like that for years.
Well, especially when the cable comes in from the wind farm,
I
but,
appreciate that and there's these required restrictions and stuff, but don't stop asking. You know, we're more or less a retirement community down here, and a beautiful resource is gonna be, you know, inaccessible, and already is inaccessible to a large population here.
I've worked with, and I know the chairman of the Disabilities Committee very well, and he and I worked together on many, that's why you see the mat over at the Kitty Beach, and, you know, we put the poles up because people were parking, so handicapped people couldn't even use them, you know, this is the way the world is, and we put the mats down and eat, because there's only so many things you can do for the access to the beach that can be allowed to be done. We, unfortunately, as a town, and we've gone through this I've been on 19 years now, I've been on this committee. For 19 years, we've gone to coastal zone management about East Beach, putting mats on East Beach to get from down to the water. To go, no, don't move the rock, don't move the sand, you can't do this, you can't do
Well,
that.
why could they do them at the campground?
Because they're the state and they hold the rules.
No, but I mean, that's our test case, that's our precedent.
Yeah, well, when we apply, it's no. I mean, I know it sounds kind of ridiculous, like, but what they did at the dunes this year, even the Conservation Commission, and she will tell you, as the secretary,
25 foot.
they went nuts. The commission went nuts, and state doesn't care. The state was allowed to put all those facilities, build them up over the dune grass, to do all that stuff, right? Millions of dollars worth of work, without any permits. We can't, every year, to put the fence up, we have to go to conservation to get a permit to replace an existing fence. And we have to have the state approval on it. This is what we go through. And I don't think people realize that, because everybody says, why don't you do a boardwalk, or at least a walkway, right, you said. Right alongside so people can drive and also walk on a fairly hard skate path, I guess, and get it down to the beach. Well, you know, that would be great on the first, 1,000 feet, and then you get close to the end, and every time there's a storm, you wouldn't have that remaining anymore, basically. But, yeah, can we put a mat down? We could probably put a mat down in the summer, but it would have to be pulled up in the
Yeah,
winter.
well, it's the same thing as
It's the same thing that happens.
Avenue.
It's the same thing. Gooseberry still has their mats out for the handicap.
Beach Avenues.
Yes.
They were there.
But they will be pulling it up shortly
They were there
because it's
last
that time of year. So the question is, because what happens, it's not too bad right now down there, but it will be bad if we had a hurricane, for instance, with one of these even way offshore, it doesn't have to be even a hurricane, it could just be a bad storm. That would all disappear in 2 minutes and we'd be back to a 3-foot mound of sand. Because you see what's happened down there if you've been down there in the last couple of weeks. The sand has piled up now, deposited. They want that to blow back up onto the beach to rebuild what happened to the storms last year when you lost 30 feet of dunes. So they don't want you playing around with a bulldozer or a front-end loader to clear back and dump it, because that's not a natural occurring thing. If you want to take it up with coastal zone management, I'll be happy to support you in every way, shape, or form, because we have this discussion not every year.
So you get approval to do it in the spring, but you don't have approval to do it any
We
other?
can do it in the spring on the guise of emergency access.
But you don't think your lifeguards and other safety personnel have trouble as the summer goes on and that sand builds up?
Yeah, we could do it in the summer probably, but as long as the plovers aren't present.
Yeah, I'm not asking you guys to do it, every week. I'm just saying, don't just do it in the spring and then never again.
Well, we can only do it before the plovers get there.
Right.
And then we can't do it,
Yeah, that's April.
and and then we can't do it if the plovers are present anywhere on the beach.
Right, but that's.
That could be till August.
Well, this year it was earlier, but,
Yeah, and it depends. If there's no plovers present,
yeah.
then we're okay, but there's always plovers present.
Yeah,
I can
I mean, there's a monitor that we.
Yeah, and we get the
hired.
big,
Tell us
national report, and the
there.
town's gonna get fined $10,000 for disturbing habitat, yada, 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 and she knows all about this, and I know all about this, and it's just something we have no control over.
But if they're not in that area or
Yeah, typically they were gone by August, but also depending on the weather and the conditions and everything that goes on down there. You know, you may or may not need to do it, 3 times, 2 times, 4 times. We can try. I can say we can try to do it and see how that works, I mean, we could probably do it after Labor Day, do one last push after Labor Day, but then they have to leave it for the winter because that's when the sand builds back up.
What are the practices of the other beaches in terms of sand surface management?
Okay, so the only people that really manage the sand is Baker's Beach, Jake McGuigan, and he's under the same restrictions. And if you go down there, you'll notice that he's got the same problem, he's beginning to have the same problem that Northwest Lake has had, is most of the sand has left, and there's nothing but cobbles. And that's what East Beach is like, and that's unfortunate. We still have sand on our beach, and we always will, and I attribute that to the fact that we don't overmanage, like Horseneck overmanaged for years, and if you take out, I make this argument, nobody wants to believe it, but in the 50s, when they took out 20 acres of dunes to put paved parking areas in, where's the sand going to come from to nourish the beach? It's not. Plus, the causeway of Gooseberry stops it from. So now they're reaping the benefits and/or destruction of 18, 20 acres of dune. The campgrounds a couple of years ago, they said we're closing down all the waterfront lots. You're going to have to keep so that it can build back up, and everybody went crazy. So they left them. And now they have nothing but cobble, and there's nothing there at the campground, and they complain about that. You can't have it every way you want it, because it just doesn't work that way.
Curious, you made a comment about a few of where the trailers are staged, go for the summer season, that a couple of parcels had lost enough material that the trailers hadn't come back. What's the probable future, like?
It'll be gone.
What?
It'll be gone.
Is it
It's not coming,
after a couple of storms?
it probably won't come back.
If you have a 38 hurricane, there will be nothing left on that beach.
And so what is the dynamic, like I've seen biking, for sale here and there,
Yeah.
along there. I was just wondering, would the town ever want to take possession of any of that?
We are not going to pay, it's been asked, we are not going to pay $189,000 for 15 feet of rocks.
For $1 in the capital loss, if they can't put it anymore because there's nothing left.
It's amazing to me that the state hasn't decided to say, no, never mind, thanks for playing.
Because that
You know.
180 or whatever it is shrinking with every storm.
That's why you saw a lot more, if you drove by there were a lot fewer trailers and a lot of them for sale. It used to cross where the town beach is. That's where you used to go into the let from there. But because they've changed the dynamics, and this is why they don't want you doing that, it crosses way over near John Reed Road now. It goes over at Gooseberry, because that section in between, they keep dumping, 2 feet of sand and cobble, 2 feet of sand, and they build this little cliff. So the water's gonna find the path of least resistance. And eventually, when it gets around the backside, that's why it dragged it all into the ocean, and that's why they were complaining the town was taking their rocks and yada, yada, yada. But it's a process that you can't stop.
Right, right.
If they want to build, like in Portsmouth and Middletown and Newport, a 6-foot-high, concrete, 2-foot-wide capped seawall along that whole section of the lake to stop the water from coming up over the road, that's great, but you're not going to be able to access your lot anymore. So you can't have it, and coastal zone management has told them, no armoring, no, none of this, none of that. You can't do armoring the shoreline. You can't do, you can do quote-unquote beach nourishment, but basically what they're doing is just beach filling. They're filling in the ocean, because every time there's a storm, it just washes back into the ocean. It's something, eventually what scares me about Cherry and Webb is it's gotten probably 150 feet narrower in my lifetime. What's going to happen if there is a 38 hurricane? If that beach goes, the town is going to lose a very important recreation / area, and people are going to be wondering, going to be left, I don't want to say high and dry is a bad way of putting it, but, so we do as much as we can, but we can only allow to do so many things. The regulations, it's rules for thee, not for me. from the state only allow you to do certain things. As Jack Sisson found out some 20 years ago, when he used to take the cobble and build a windrow along East Beach Road to save the road, and got into all kinds of trouble.
Boulders and,
Yeah, and put boulders there to try to save the road, tried to do these things, common sense things, like, why can't we do this? And don't, Bob Carroll, Jack DeVore, God rest their souls, Tim St. Michel, myself, we all went down there with Rebecca Haney and Coastal Zone Management for years and years and years. Because we want to do something in East Beach. The only possibility of good access for handicap and the elderly is East Beach. Because either way, going from the parking lot at Cherry and Webb, the 1,000 feet to get to the beach, whether you're able-bodied or not, on a 95-degree day with 95% humidity, and you're trying to drag a cart of whatever, towels or a small cooler or whatever you're trying to bring, it's tough. I watch the death march coming off the beach when I go down, you know, with kids hanging over the shoulder, mom and dad carrying, you know, surfboards and everything, and it's like, and I get that question all the time, why can't we run a shuttle? Why can't we, you know, and we've talked about it, I think we've discussed it, what have you been
Oh,
on?
well, we've had, I think in the basement at one point, there was a special.
The handicap wheelchair, but that's one chair.
With, you know, huge tires and,
You know,
I don't know.
Do you have a parking attendant with a little, you
How do you-
know,
how do
Disney
you do
World
this?
space shuttle that goes
Have a-
back and forth, you know? Watch yourself getting out of the tram.
High school football player there all summer to push it.
Yeah, yeah, you know,
How do
it's,
you do this?
these are all ideas, I mean, we appreciate any ideas in the input. We are limited in some aspects. I understand, in the summertime, probably after August, we could go back down if it needed it, obviously, to clear that path again, and we could probably do it in September, but after that, until spring, you really not supposed to touch anything. Because the storms bring the sand onto the beach, and if you're playing with that dynamic, you're playing with the
Well, this last winter, there were 3 storms.
Four.
January, December, January, and another one, there were at least 3. And the tides were almost as high as Hurricane Bob
Yeah,
in all 3, and that's in 1 year. And we haven't had that for 20 years,
yeah,
anything like that. So it's just that it was a freak of a year.
yeah. I mean, if you went down the
in
path,
that regard.
the path had, you know, 2 feet of seaweed and various logs and boards and all kinds of things. But you really can't do it out and do anything. You can try to, you know,
Try something with mats, that would be great, some length someplace, you know.
but the mats would have to come up eventually, like in the end of October, I would say.
Well, they do it at Beach Avenue.
Is that something where like
Same
the
thing.
lifeguards could roll it out in the morning and then roll it up when they leave?
Have you ever tried to pick, these mats, those mats are extremely heavy. You need a
So
machine.
then they're pegged into the sand.
Yeah,
They go out for the season.
yeah, you need a machine. You can't roll any of that. Those things weigh,
Yeah.
see, because that's how they stay in place and that's how they stay flat.
We have a house here in Westport, but we also have one in Dartmouth too, and Round Hill has them as well.
Yeah,
And they put, only in like 2 of the walkway paths though,
Right.
where the handicap parkings are. And, I know theirs are bolted down too.
yeah. I mean, it's one of these things you can't, and it's like, you know, the boardwalk is a great idea, but there's 2 problems. One is storm takes it out, and then it's made out of a material that burns.
So you could do that as long as you have the funds to put it down and take it up.
Right, and we have to get the permit to do it, but yeah, and under handicap access, ADA gives us a lot of leeway with environmental issues, so as an ADA we're required to provide ADA, you know, it's required us to access to all town facilities. Every town facility has to be handicap accessible. And we've talked about Cherry and Webb for 20 years, even when Elaine Ostroff was head of the, and it's like, I don't know how you make Cherry and Webb, quote-unquote, handicap accessible, because the hill's too steep, the hill's too
You
steep.
can't do that, but you can make it easier.
Yeah.
Parts.
And there definitely are handicapped people using it now, but with great difficulty. Absolutely, we know a bunch of people.
Right.
And most of us have been handicapped, disabled at some point in the last couple of years.
Right, I mean, I'm not getting, you know, I'm the first to tell you, I'm not getting any younger, and it's harder for me to do it, you know, but I'll be doing it as long as I'm able to. But there are a lot of people who would love to do it, and unfortunately, it's,
We'll try to see what you can do with the mats, I guess.
okay. I mean, is it gonna be helpful to go to like, let's say June to September or something?
Yeah,
Any-
yeah, absolutely.
Well, do it the same way they do at Beach Avenue.
I mean, that's.
I mean, those go in-
The problem, at Cherry and Webb, the sand moves so quickly, it fills in, and it gets so soft so quickly that it's just really difficult. But, I mean, it can be pegged in, but they'll be probably covered within a couple of weeks. It's a different animal there, because of the wind and the sand. And then it's not a bad thing to have too much sand. If it was all cobble.
And in
you'd have a different
Elephant
issue.
Rock, they have 2x3s with wires, and they roll it up.
Yeah, those are not the same things.
And they're a little bit, same idea, but. it's-
Right, because the mat, I can tell you the
They do
mat,
the
that
same
cost,
thing.
the mat at the Kitty Beach, I think was $11,000. And that's not a very big mat, just to let you know what you do. But we can approach the Disabilities Committee, because they get all the funds for the handicap parking violations. So every $300 ticket gets written out, it goes into their pocket. And we could probably work, I'll ask Mr. Costa, Martin Costa, the chair.
Yeah, if you just tried to put it in some place towards the mouth where the cars aren't gonna drive on it, they can straddle it.
Well, the only person that should be driving on it is the lifeguards.
They can make sure they straddle it and not drive on it and, disrupt it and just whatever you have would be like, once you hit it, you're like, even if I hit ground and not sand, I'm like, finally, it's such a relief to get off the deep sand. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else? Any ideas, concerns?
I mean, I don't understand the whole point of the landscaping in the parking lot. To me, it's kind of
Well,
natural,
We have been requested by the Board of Selectmen and people because they think it's a little ugly and it should be fixed up, and it's a mindset that we want it to be a beach club, not a public beach.
You got the deer to contend with that I suspect are pretty prolific down there.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
So, all of a sudden, your universe of plantable things just got cut to about 6.
Well, and here you want it to be natural, and you have natural vegetation, so why wouldn't you want that? I don't understand that whole thing. Sorry.
I would refer you to, I sat in front of the Board of Selectmen 3 Mondays ago, I think, and they want this done, they want that done. And because they hear it from different people, I don't know, whoever, you never get the names. But it's like, some people, like I said, I understand the whole thing about the weeds and everything like that, that's a different scenario. There's plenty of poison ivy down there, there's plenty of, that, you can't go around spraying Roundup. So, I get that, but as far as spending money to landscape,
Did anyone offer that these people requesting any suggestions on?
no, that's why one of the line items on our agenda tonight was, members, do you have anything? Will general public have anything for us that they might want to see, whether, we do have a family going down there to add another bench for memorial of their mother and father, if you know the Sunderlands,
Is that on Kitty Beach side? Is that on the harbor side?
I'm meeting on Saturday morning or afternoon, I'm not sure, with the family to see what they want to do. Since they're donating it, I'll leave it up to them. Anything we get donated, we don't, because they used to walk the beach all the
The
time.
ones on the path are used.
Yeah,
The
they have,
ones on the path are used.
yeah, I mean, those are only made out of basically leftover granite curbing from the highway.
They're used.
And they're very helpful. People love those things because we never had any of those things, People want cubbies for sandals and things, so that people walking on, and I can tell you the number of things I hear.
Well, it shouldn't be a situation of someone, just an individual comes in and says they want something, and because they know somebody that's in a position of power, they get to have it. I mean, it should be, a consensus.
We found out.
People that use the beach the most.
Because the enterprise fund that we started 12 years ago, when I first got on the committee, and the members that were on the committee with me 19 years ago were very dedicated and hardworking. Bob Carroll, if you know Bob Carroll, if you knew Jack DeVerve, if you knew Tim St. Michel, You know, it was a good group of people who put a lot of effort into improving, and I don't want to take any credit for improving the facilities, the security, the gates to keep people out at night, and everything has gone somewhat as we've gotten money. We've gotten safety equipment, that was the first thing, we didn't, you know, lifeguards didn't have chairs, they didn't have a truck, it was kind of ridiculous. And when the woman drowned, the young girl drowned some 20 years ago, I was beside myself about how it was getting run, because they were taking all the money, they give you just enough to pay the lifeguards, and then it went into the general fund, so we started the enterprise fund so that we could buy safety equipment every year, we could improve the facilities, we can do a thing, and then they've been kind of pecking away at that. And last year, we took a big hit because we had to increase the lifeguards significantly if we wanted to have lifeguards, which has always been a discussion. Do we not have lifeguards? That would be a disaster, yeah. So we've been making efforts. Woody's been on for some time now. He's a old timer, so to speak, on the committee. And, you know, helpful suggestions. He comes from a different end of town where Beach Avenue, and he's kind of like the steward of, you know, what's going on a general basis. I try to get down there as often as I can, but it's, you know, basically, one of the discussion items was the Recreation Committee taking control of the whole thing because it's the biggest recreation facility in town. My fear, and it's always been my fear since I've been on the committee, is money always tends to get funneled away from the beach to other things. And I want the money that comes in for the beach to be spent at the beach. Because I want to go over there as long as I can walk. I want to go to that beach. I've been doing it for 62 years.
So is that still a fear that the recreation department would overtake you?
Well, we need administrative help because we're all volunteers. We don't have any full-time personnel to take in complaints. You know, if there's something goes wrong in the middle of the day, what happens? I get a call at work. You know, hey, this is, you know, the lifeguard will call me. We had to close down. It's lightning, thundering. Okay, that's a different issue. You know, what do? You know, every spring we're hiring lifeguards. We have to take time out to meeting, to get the applications, to advertise, to do all these things. None of us here are getting paid to do this.
Well, just the, you know, what do we get, 3,000 each passes?
4,000, yeah.
4,000 that we have to process. Somebody has to do it.
Yeah, there's all these things that, you know,
And
Was there a beach manager this summer? Or
hiring a beach manager, I think I don't know what they do. And, you know, because after you hire the lifeguards and everything like that, the head lifeguard pretty much is the beach
Yeah,
manager.
we just named
Well, I
it.
remember seeing a posting back.
But as far as administratively, if
It
you
was
had a
on- It was
complaint,
on the list, but I
Yeah.
think we just said head lifeguard.
yeah, because there's nobody, like you said, if you came in and you said, hey, I just came from the path needs to be, there's nobody to come to say the path needs to be cleared, or there's a dead body across the path. Can anybody come down and meet it, other than it gets out on Facebook, and then there's a million comments, and everybody goes crazy on the poor person who's reporting it, and then, you know, and it turns into a giant spectacle. There's no beach department, there's no Parks and Recreation department, we are that.
Yeah.
And the Recreation Committee oversees the playgrounds, and so the idea is Dana, who is the person who runs that part of it, would be the contact person.
So they have somebody paid on staff, like they have a
Yes.
paid position?
Yes.
One person.
Yeah, one person. And I don't know if this overwhelms, because what happens is Paula Brown, who works in the selectman's office, was on this committee. She couldn't take it anymore because when they found out she was on this committee, everybody was filing into her office all day long to say, hey, what are you doing about this? What are you doing about that? I get phone calls. People can track me down. And it's usually when I go down to lock up or open up, I'll get because people know when I get down there, they'll get an earful about something, one thing or another, and, you know.
So as a committee, what would be your wish list for that? What would you like to see opposed to being taken over by the rec?
I want it to be, my whole thing here is, we have private beach clubs in town, and they're very expensive, and we have a gorgeous shoreline here. I don't want to turn this into, let's charge $250 for a family to go to the beach.
or more, a lot more than that.
Yeah, or a lot more than
Yeah, a
that.
lot
You know,
more.
so when we went to 35 to 50, the world was coming to an end.
Right.
You know,
At the end of the day, it's still a town.
we want it to be a family-friendly beach. We don't want alcohol, we don't want, loud parties, people getting into fights and doing all that. We want to be able, somebody to bring their kids, their grandkids, their friends, and sit there and say, this is great, it's a beach.
And it's a town amenity, it's not.
Yeah,
it shouldn't
exactly.
It shouldn't be looked at as a public-private.
We don't want to turn, we had people on the beach committee when I first got on who wanted to ban fishing, wanted to ban surfing, wanted to ban, everything, because they lived down there and they didn't want anybody to be at the beach.
I understand that. In both towns, Dartmouth has that issue.
I don't want people with dogs, I don't want people with, who are gonna be there in the evening, I don't want people there early in the morning to run jogging the beach, I don't want this. That's not my goal here. My goal is to make the beach more accessible for people to use as an amenity in town. Is one of the things every real estate agent will tell you in town. If you're buying a house in Westport and they take you to that beach, it's a big selling point, and that's what Westport has become, and, some people don't like it. I just want it to be a usable beach for the town of Westport.
Well, just for example, my wife, back in the 1960s, early 60s, late, she was one of 2 employees at Elephant Rock. She was at the desk, and then one of her friends was the lifeguard, and that was it. And now they have almost 30 employees.
How long
So
is it?
just, go figure.
How long have you lived in town, just out of curiosity?
So I was a Dartmouth resident for over 20 years. I lifeguarded.
That doesn't count.
I know. I lifeguarded at Horse Neck for a couple of years, but we recently purchased property in 21.
Okay.
So yes, Westport resident, not very long, but
I was raised in Fairhaven and Dartmouth, and then I came back to Westport in 2008.
2011.
Yeah, okay. So, and Woody's been here longer than I have, but I've been here
Wow.
since 1960, so.
I've been here since 1938.
And this is the scenario. So my whole goal was, when they were trying to shut the beach down for access and do all these things, is not to do that. That's why I'm sitting here. And it scares me to death that if I leave this committee, it's gonna go back to, let's turn it into a private beach club. Let's charge $500 a beach sticker, let's, do all these things. Let's stop everybody, and make sure everybody wears the same color bathing suit and all these other things. And that's what I don't want to see. I don't want to see it turn into, Miami Beach. But I want to see a fisherman surf casting. And I want to see kids making sandcastles. And I want to see a person throwing the ball with a dog into the surf. And I want to see, and also I want to see the plovers and the deer and the ospreys and the fish and all the other things too. It's a long list of things to see, is my personal opinion. But I think that's why everybody wants that beach. I think a lot of people who don't use the beach think it's a white elephant or, or whatever. And that was why the funds used to, we literally were using $30,000 when I got on this beach to run the whole beach. Paying the lifeguards, trying to get a truck, trying to do all these things. And it was ridiculous. And now everybody wants the money that we bring in, because we went from, before the pandemic, we would sell 2,700 beach passes. After the pandemic, it's 4,000. And that is because people decided you couldn't go to Horse Neck. I got to get a beach ticket. I want to go to the beach because I can't go to New Hampshire to go to the beach, or York, Maine, or wherever I usually go for 2 weeks. And now people say, well, why are we going to those places when we can go there? Unfortunately. But it's, again, it's crowded the parking lot. We don't have any room to expand. We don't have an ability to do anything. East Beach, we can do some things. I just would like to see, again, as long as I've been doing it, and I've heard a bazillion complaints about all kinds of things, but everybody comes back.
Well, and also, in my own point of view, which, may not be popular with everyone, is that we call ourselves the town beach committee. But the town itself owns
Very small portion.
a very small portion of the beaches in town. And I think what I would like to see, even though, there may be some pushback, is that we coordinate more with all the other with other private beach clubs, with the Land Trust that owns a lot of beach,
Right.
with the Horse Neck that has, we are sort of in competition with in a way, and try to make the whole thing work better for everyone. And so that's an objective that we haven't really dealt with, but if we were to coordinate with the Recreation Commission and get better coordination with the private beach clubs and the Land Trust, which I'm involved with, I think this would give us a better facilities for everyone.
Yeah. Let's face it, the Cherryweb Beach, there's no, storms and nourishment and issues that happen at the beach. There's no political demographic divide. Bakers, the private beaches, Cherryweb, Horse Neck,
Doesn't discriminate.
interconnected.
Doesn't discriminate.
No, it's just like,
Interconnected, everybody's gotta work together, and we get a lot of pushback from the state does not wanna be good players. And that's fine, because they're gonna dredge up 70,000 yards of sand and drop it in front, like I said, and block the harbor is what they're basically gonna do. And every person, like I said, the advisory committee, the beach committee, I'm a fish commissioner, fish commissioners, everybody said, this is a bad idea. We don't care, then we're gonna do it anyway.
This is the
So they're taking
dredging
the
project.
sand from where?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I talked to the guy, I called the guy who was in charge of
Yeah.
the
Oh,
dredging.
the guy in Boston there,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I said, well, the channel is gonna go where God puts it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the best thing to do would be just to keep dredging where the natural channel
Yep.
is.
That's meeting.
Can I get your name?
Correct,
Huh?
harbor,
Sue.
or harbor meeting is next week.
Well, there have been
Burns.
some, but
Burns, just
but the guy
B-U-R-N-S?
basically said that the bureaucracy makes it
No problem.
impossible for the Corps of Engineers
Yeah.
to make the channel anywhere except in the designated channel, which they approved years ago. And I just sort of said, oh my God, what are we,
If you knew, I do it for a living, and Leon knows that. I work, again, I butt heads with state agencies for a living. This is what I do. If you knew how screwed up, are we live? If you knew how screwed up things are and how over-regulation with no common sense this state is.
We are experiencing it.
You
We are
would-
living it right now.
Now, yeah, it depends on what you've done. I've lived here my whole life,
Yeah.
right? And 30 years ago, when I became an adult, so to speak, and, had a serious job and lived in town, bought a house and all those things that you do, and found out how everything gets run and how things happen. And everybody goes crazy when something goes wrong. I'll give a perfect example, wind turbines. The whole world, 25 years ago, wanted wind turbines everywhere on the planet. Putting them up in their yard, every farm was putting them up. It was wind turbine heaven, right? Until they found out how stupid it was. It was a bad technology. But we're putting wind turbines out there. They're built out there, but they have no way of getting it on shore, right? So now they're just figuring, we got to figure out how to get it on shore. We can go right up Horse Neck Beach, it's all state-owned land. Nobody can stop us. Go right up 88, we can do, yeah. So, and then everybody's screaming, we're forming a committee, we're doing this, we're doing that. And every person, and I hate to lecture people, voted for every person who voted for the funding for every one of these things. And said, we're gonna do this. Maura Healy just signed $30 million, let's develop some more. And then everybody on the South Coast is going crazy. Boston doesn't care. And you talk to, state reps can care, but one state rep out of 90 is not gonna do anything at the State House. You know, one state senator out of 56 or whatever that is, he's not gonna do anything. And, what's that?
As I say, the comment about the, going up 88,
Yeah.
is the vision that that's below grade or above grade?
Here's what it's preliminary, but it's a preliminary coincidence that they just wiped out all the dunes that where it's gonna come on shore. It's just a coincidence they did all that this spring. Just a coincidence. Don't let this think it's gonna happen. What they're planning on doing is running it underneath the river, coming up, you know, on this side of the bridge. And that in itself, you know, so, you know, 88 is a 350-foot wide layout. It's tucked up, there's 175 feet from the pavement to the layout on the east side of 88. There's plenty of land. A lot of people don't know that. They could clear that 175 feet and there'd be people who lived on Drift Road who would go,
On the east side of 88?
yeah. The layout of Route 88, where the transfer station is, goes about to where the entrance of the transfer station is. Lets you know how far off the pavement it goes. And that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna run it right through there because it's state-owned land and you can't stop them.
Right.
If they had to take private land, there'd be lawsuits and, you know, legal leads and means holding
Is the expectation of above or below grade?
below grade. But the issue is, okay, you're going below the river, what's that gonna do? Nothing. Well, there's an awful lot of power coming up through those things.
Grappling hooks on the fishing.
Yeah, don't have a steel sinker, because you're never gonna get it off the bottom, because the electromagnetic thing's gonna, you know. But I digress away from the beach committee's thing, but this is what happens, and getting on the beach committee and the frustration of doing things that make all the common sense in the world, I understand the sand thing, can't do it. As much as, you know, no one likes the difficulty walking. If it snows, it's difficult walking, but it's gonna snow, and the sand's gonna sand, and the snow's gonna snow, and we can try to clear it, but we're not gonna be able to during the whole summer season. And then they don't want you doing it when, like right now, the beach is building up. You'll see that little berm, and
Starting to protect itself.
yes, if you take that away,
Right.
we're gonna be Horse Neck Beach, we're gonna have cobble on there, and then everybody will complain. That's what the problem is with Horse Neck Beach. They get out there and they overmanage. We gotta make the pass nice and clean, we got all this public coming down, we're gonna run the thing that rakes the seaweed off the beach, back and forth, behind the tractors, and do all that stuff. And now they've just figured out not to do that stuff, but then they went and did what they did.
Right.
I don't know. Anyway, since we've gone on too long here, we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye.